What did I mention today? Oh, I was gonna make a video about something yesterday. I forgot to, and I forget what I was gonna do. What the fuck? One day I can do or something. Okay. Well, I've noticed something, which is that, like, how to speak Korean, that's what I was gonna do. Okay, so how do you ask for directions in Korean? You have to ask them, how do I get to this destination? Not where is this destination? So let's say I lived outside of Toronto and I want to know where Toronto is. I think here you can ask, oh, do you know where Toronto is? And then people will be able to tell you. But if you wanted to get, it seems there's a connotation when you say it that way that, like, you're being a little sarcastic and you think that person's lost. But that's not always the case, especially if it's the person doesn't speak English fluently. But if you want to ask, if you're in Korea and you want to ask where, like, let's say I want to go to Seoul, you have to say, how do I get to Seoul? Do you know how to get, can you tell me how to get to Seoul? Not do you know. If you ask them, you can say, do you know where Toronto is here? And people will understand what you mean. It's not offensive. But it's a little accusatory because you're directing it towards a person. But in English, it's fine because you're asking them a question about something you don't know. So you're saying, do you know? I don't know. Do you know? That's what that means. But if you say that in Korean, do you know how to get to Seoul? They're not gonna respond to you because it's kind of like a rude way to ask. Yeah, it's a rude way to ask. It's like usually like people who are really just trying to pick a fight, or like, you know, like the streetwalkers and stuff like that, like they talk that way. It's better, so they're not really good in Korean mostly because they're uneducated. So it's better to ask, can you tell me how to get to Seoul? Right? Or do you know how to get to Seoul? Because I don't know. You can be even open it as like a, hello, I am new to this area. Can you tell me how to get to this location? But I think it's better if you say, how can I get to Seoul? Yeah, I say it that way. How can I get to Seoul? But if you ask that in English, people are gonna be like, I don't know, or like, how can I get there? And they're like, oh, I don't know, man. That's gonna be the majority of the responses, especially if you're in America and you ask people that way. It's a little offensive, the way they speak. Like if you say it that way, it's hard if English is your second language and you're not really fluent. But if you are in Korea and you want to ask somebody, how do I get to such and such destination, you have to be like, how can I get to this destination? And then they'll be like, oh, blah blah blah. So that's how you speak in Korean, or ask directions in Korean. If you want to know where the local shops are, or if you want to know, like, there's so many shops in Korea. Like you walk down one street and there's literally like 2 convenience stores, a bakery, a restaurant, and like a clothing shop. Like that's so like their main intersections. There's a lot more like train locations and brand name stores, and they do have department stores, which is like Macy's. So in Korea, there's no malls. There's just department stores, and in the department stores, you can purchase products. Typically, like non-Korean, not made in Korea import products, you go to department stores for. But here they don't really do that. I mean, I think if you go to Sears or the Bay, they're department stores, so they have it laid out like that there. But most people, because they're attached to malls, most people only go there for certain brands, not really like department-wise, because in the malls you have different stores with different brands. It's not really like that in Korea. I mean, if you go on the street and then there's like different stores on the street, there's different brands, different chain locations, but there's no malls in Korea where it's like in America there's a lot of malls. There's like not a lot of department stores, and the department stores are inside the mall. So the mall is like this big shopping like building, and each building has its own brand of clothing. Also, I just realized that George Carlin guy, he's a comedian, he hated living in America, and I'm like, why don't you go back to your country then? Weird. He's a stupid guy. He thought like life was about money and buying stuff, and I'm like, but honestly, I think it's because his family was actually better off than some people, where they never really had to worry about that kind of stuff, like finding food or money or something like that. So yeah. To him, like he couldn't find pleasure or meaning of life, but he was a comedian. It's not really a, it's a gig, it's a job. It's not really like it's not really a career. Like photographer, they have careers. I think some web developers and game developers, they have careers too. Like there's professions such as working as a professor, a teacher, a tutor. There's art teachers, stuff like that. Those are professions. Police officer, that's a profession. Um, Jobs are like gigs that you do. So like you get paid for performing stuff or doing a service or providing a product, right? Like sales, that's a job. Right, you can be a career, I think. You can make a career in sales, but you'd be mostly managing people in sales, and then you'd end up working for like a corporation, I think. So before you'd be like based on commission pay, right? And then you'd end up managing people who are doing what you were doing, and then they might even promote you into like district supervisor to oversee the entire sales and how the products are doing, and like maybe you might even get into PR where like it's public relations, so like you see how the customers are responding to these products that you're marketing. So that kind of stuff you might segue into, but like again, PR career, HR career, accountant career, lawyer career. So careers are something that affects your reputation, but typically you get paid a lot more than if you're working a job. But you can save up a lot of money when you're working a job, like construction work, that's a job. But is it a good job? Look, I think people look down on that job in particular because they hire people who are like typically have criminal histories and they need extra like actual hands on the job. You don't need a lot of experience or education to work those things, and there's a site supervisor who's overseeing what you're doing all the time anyway. And only thing they will pay for you to get those certifications, but it's like safety and handling of hazardous chemicals and safety for working at the construction sites. So those certificates that you might have to get, but your employer should be able to pay for that for you. And no, there's not a lot of good people who work those jobs because they're only there to get some money for whatever reason. So like they need the money, so that's why they work the job. Bartending, a job, not a career. If you own restaurants, that can be a career. But typically, I think being a chef is closer to a profession. So that's a profession, not really a job. Some professions are paid by taxes. Some professions are private. All jobs are private. And all careers are private. Unless you're working for the government, in which case it wouldn't be private. So even if you have a law degree, you can still work as a in a career field for a job. I mean, not for a job, a career field for a government, right? Even though your job is like your current work is a career, but you be working it as a profession or job. A profession rather. But yeah, how else to speak Korean? People don't really like it when you speak English if you're in Korea. Only because they don't like speaking English to people. They know how to read and write in English. Most of them understand English fluently. There's been like a running joke where like all this translation stuff that you purchase at like those stationery stores, and they have like the wrong translations, like love is sweet and forever, like my fleeting heart or something like that. Yeah, they have that kind of stuff written on like the pencil cases or like on notebooks and stuff. Um, I don't know why they put that there. And sometimes they have like French words on there too, but it's like I have no idea what it means. I think that's what they're trying to say about people who speak English. So like, we don't know what you mean. Because it's like in English, it's like that. Like you just a lot of the times you can say things without meaning. It's impossible in Korean to say stuff without meaning. In English, there's a lot of like niceties. You say things to kind of fill the air with sound or to make it look good or something like that, right? Like, oh hey, like call me if you ever need help. I'm always here for you. It doesn't mean anything. They're not actually there for you, and you shouldn't call them when you need help. But they say that just because that's the right thing to say and it's socially acceptable to say at the time. That's what they're trying to say. They don't like it when people do that in Korea. It's actually very, very, very inconsiderate, and you will be ostracized, and people will try to kick you out of the country if you do that. Those things aren't meaningless for Korean people. Because in Korean, like you don't, there's no way to speak in a sentence without meaning something, right? So like and also in the culture, like it's actually like they'll drop by and like see how you're doing or like ask if everything's okay, and like it's weird if nobody's ever treated you or like taken you out for a dinner or something like that, and they'll try to introduce you to everyone they can to you if you're new in the area. It's not really like that in English. I think you have to go through people that you know. And so like you went to teach English in Korea, and the first day like your coworkers like, yeah, I know you just moved in here, but me and a bunch of other guys who like girls, a bunch of us who actually work here, we're gonna go somewhere after work. Do you wanna come with us? And then I can introduce you to more people. She doesn't really know them very well, but then she'll like actually let them know that there's a new person who works there, and they're like, yeah, we should have some sort of thing, get together after work or something. So that's what they do quite frequently, and that's how they'll try to introduce you to more people. If you're not really like into that kind of stuff, you're gonna have a hard time, like you're gonna struggle in Korea because you're gonna meet everyone who's doing that, and even if you turn them down the first time, they're gonna try to introduce you to more people like as you go along. And it gets rude after a while if you keep saying, I don't want to meet anybody, I just want to come here and work, and then like never talk to anyone. And even if you do that, there's gonna be like people in the neighborhood who are curious or like wondering like, why don't you wanna, like it's unhealthy for you to do that, so they get concerned. You'll drop by or be like, oh, do you need any help, like are you getting used to the area, that kind of stuff. So when Korean people say something like, oh, call me if you ever need anything, and you need something and you don't call them, they'll know about it and you have offended them. They're gonna ask you about it, or they're gonna think like they're gonna start like talking shit about you or something. They're like, I thought you were gonna call me if you need something, like why didn't you call me? Like yeah, I heard that you needed help and all that kind of stuff, like I told you to contact me, like how come you didn't contact me? But it's mostly because like if you are in a situation where you need some like assistance or something like that, or you need a friend to help you out or something, and then you don't, they're gonna think there's something wrong with your friends or something, because they're like, why aren't they helping you? Like, did you call them or something? And you're like, why aren't you call them? Did you guys have a fight or something like that? Like, it doesn't make sense. Even if you had a fight, they would still come and help you. So that's kind of the culture in Korea. Um, what else? Typically Korean people, they don't like mince their words or like sugarcoat anything. If you do, they're not even gonna get it. Like they're gonna just ignore you. That's the thing. Also sweets. They don't like sweet things in Korea. Like you'll notice the Korean candies are actually closer to like Mexican or South American candies. Not really like European or like if you lived in Canada, like or US. Those not those candies. They don't really like those. Me personally, I think they're a little sweet. Like I only eat those when I like haven't eaten anything for like the past week and I need that extra energy because I'm about to like go do some stuff, like move some stuff or like go out work out or something like that. Like it's just I don't really like them either. They put too much sugar in it and there's like literally no flavor. And there's like I don't know. Like I said, I personally don't like it. I know a lot of people do. A lot of Europeans like it because it's actually more similar to European candies than it is to another candies. But like I've tried European candies and they're not actually that sweet. They're a little bland, but they're not very sweet. And it's like good to eat after a meal or something. Or like if you just wanted some small snack, you wouldn't want to eat more than like because it doesn't taste that good. It's not super sweet. It's not like giving you any cravings to eat more than one. So that's kind of I've noticed about European candies. How do you stop yourself from offending people in Korea? Because you're a foreigner or like you are just new to the area, they're not gonna really expect much from you. Just letting you know, so no one's really gonna correct you, but at the same time, no one's really gonna get offended for the first little while. But you should be able to pick up on it on your own. Like, they're not gonna say anything, but then if you're like still doing that, like maybe like a month into you working there and then like meeting new people and stuff, they're gonna think that you're a little weird, and then might like they can't really say anything to you because then they're gonna start assuming that that's just kind of how you are like a person. Like that's just the type of person you are. Right, but like let's say you're rude to everyone all the time, but you don't know that you're rude. That means in Korean like you're just a rude person, and people usually will put up with it, but like they may not like you very much. But they're not gonna know that you don't actually know what it is that means because you're not very fluent. They're just gonna be like, oh, that's probably the person's just a rude person. That's just who they are as a person. Some people are rude, some people aren't. Some people behave rudely. Some people yeah, so like if somebody is not rude person but they're being rude, you can say like they're behaving rudely. But if you continue to do that all the time, then they're gonna think that you're just a rude person. Like your personality trait is just rude. But that is what what do you call they will think. What is offensive in Korea? If you don't include that person into some aspect of your life and they're actively helping you, then that's called being rude. So let's say this person you don't really know, but they're helping you get settled in Korea, right? Like your coworker like is helping you navigate the area and telling you where the shops are and stuff like that. But like you never tell this coworker anything about yourself or let you know like oh when you're going or ask her or him to come with you to these places because you're just new to the area. That would be considered being rude. So if your coworkers like nearby and they're like let's say like they give you a list of places that you can go and they're like oh you can come here and like you can go there like if you, I know the area that you're living in and then here's like where most people, if you don't know what these chains locations are, here's a list of it. Here's some grocery store names. You can even go to the department stores to buy groceries. Like, if you need any help setting stuff up, like if you want to buy stuff online, then here's some like stuff online that you can buy. And then there'll be like, oh, so, and then you're supposed to ask them, oh, okay, thanks for telling me, I think I need to go to the store later. Can you tell me, can you tell me like when they're open, and also do you want to come with me? Because I've never been there before, I don't know what it's really like. And they'll either say sure, or they'll like say like, I might not be able to go with you today, but I can tell you the directions, and if you still have like problems with it, I'd go with you. They'll either say one of the two things like that. So that's what's like in Korea. Like, it's, you can still be rude to people and people aren't gonna say anything, but I think your reputation for being like inconsiderate and obnoxious will prevent, like, it's gonna start getting around, and people are gonna start treating you as if you're actually just a rude person and you don't really like other people, and they're gonna assume like you had some bad experience, or like something was wrong with you or something like that. But don't worry, they're not really gonna hold anything against you unless you do something really bad, like you lie about them, or you steal from them, or like even if you do, they're just gonna yell at you for it. Like, if your supervisor finds out you were stealing office supplies, they're gonna actually yell at you in public. But that's Korean. Like, their moms do that to their kids all the time. They're not really afraid to chastise people in public or anything like that. If you want to know, like, how do I know if people like me, or like they want to be friends with me? If they still hang out with you and still take you out to dinner, and like they still want to talk to you and stuff, and they still like text you. Oh, also texting is different in Korea than in English, because if you text in Korean, it's very short, and if you directly translate it to English, it might even seem like aloof or offhanded or dismissive, but that's not what that is in Korean. It's still what people text. Oh my god. That was kind of scary. But yeah, they'll still like, somebody leave their window open. But yeah, that's what that is in Korean. But yeah, don't worry about being liked or not. Even if they hate you, they'll still come by and see if you're okay. But that's Korean. Also, you'll typically notice Korean people don't actually like to eat different types of food. Like, they don't really like any food that's not really Korean or something like Korean. So they'll eat Japanese food, they'll eat Korean food. Sometimes they'll even eat like different Asian food, so like maybe Cambodian or Thai or Laos, or like some foods like that, but they don't really like European food or American food. There's American food in Korea, so there's like fried chicken and pizza and beer and wings and stuff like that. So they have those things in Korea too, but it's like a Korean version of it. They do have bakeries in Korea. So if you're a Westerner, so like you're European or white European in living in America and you go to Korea, or you're just coming from Europe directly to Korea, there's so many bakeries there. They even have like they're really big on South American stuff. So it's like you'll find churros and like powdered and like sugar powders. They don't use actual like icing sugar. They use like actual sugar to powder their donuts. So it's like fried dough with sugar on it. Um, they do have jelly donuts, but it doesn't really taste like the ones that they sell in America. I don't know what it's like in Europe. If I remember correctly, it doesn't really taste like English pastries either. Yeah, but in Korea they have like these types of breads and stuff. It's Western style, but that's kind of how they bake it. But the cakes are really good. So that's very European. I think they still stick to the European recipes for the cakes. But for everything else, um, you'll be surprised. Like they don't really like to like leave people out on the road or anything like that. There is a crime rate in Korea. Like I actually, they don't actually release the statistics publicly to different countries, so it's hard for them to actually like assess like to the extent of it. But um, there is a cop station. There's firefighters. There's all that stuff. There's libraries in Korea. They're actually better than the ones that are in Toronto. Those libraries are really big and really nice. They look like a library, and a lot of students go there to study. Like, you'll find a lot of university students there. You'll find a lot of high school kids there who are doing extracurricular work, that kind of stuff. To go to study and like learn stuff. Is it dangerous in Korea? Not really, but at the same time, maybe. I think it's better if you get as acquainted as many people as you can. Like even if you don't like them, even if you don't know them very well, try to get to know them and then let them know like what's going on in your life. Even if they text you and say, "Hey, what are you doing? Hey, what's up?" That kind of stuff. I think if they find you alone and you're not like, they won't really get into anything if you're currently going through a fight or like if you're like having family problems or problems at home. A lot of people have problems at home, and a lot of neighbors will notice that you are like in the area, so there will be people who like keep an eye out and stuff like that. But like it's not really because they're gonna call the police when you need help or anything. It's because they're kind of concerned if they need to be worried about their own safety. That's kawaii. But there's a lot of street vendors in Korea, so like there's people selling stuff on the street. Um, and it's typically like just like they still have street markets. So like on the street, like you walk down the street and you'll see people like selling groceries. You'll see grocers and groceries being sold on the street. So like dried anchovies or vegetables or fruits and stuff like that. They still sell that on the street. That used to be like that when I was a kid too, but I guess I didn't change that part. Um, there's a lot of farms even in the city. I mean greenhouses. So if you go to a city, you'll see a few greenhouses in some areas, and that's where some people like to grow their food. Um, what else? What is like? I think the biggest culture shock, I think, for a lot of people who live in America and maybe Europe possibly that go to Korea is that people all know what you're doing, and it's so regulated. It's very heavily regulated. So there's always somebody overseeing you or your case, and they know exactly like why you're there and what you're doing. even if you never meet that person. So there's like a government officer who's overseeing this person who's in that area, and they will have information on you and know what you're doing and where you're going and all that kind of stuff. And so you can't really get anywhere without having somebody else know that you were in that area. That you know. So it'll get back to you somehow. So like, let's say you, and I know they lie about that kind of stuff in America, but like in Korea they're not actually lying about that kind of stuff. So like if you, let's say you went to the next city over for like a friend's birthday dinner, and they saw a few people saw you there at the restaurant, you might even have like your coworker mention to you next time you see that person, saying, "Oh, hey, my friend actually lives in the area, and they told me that you were there with your birthday stuff. Like, how was it?" That's kind of like how they're casually mentioning to you that they also have been to that restaurant, and also that like they're not really trying to threaten you or anything. They're like kind of throwing it out there, like, "Oh, hey, heard you were in that area, like so if you liked it or something, like if next time I plan something, I'll include you," and stuff like that. Like that's what they mean when they say that kind of stuff. Like if it sounds like they're pissed off or they're like trying to insult you about it, it's just their own thing. Like they have personal issues or whatever. Maybe they don't like you very much, but then now they're forced to kind of include you. But yeah, that's what it's like. It's a bit general outline of Korea. Most people have cars in Korea. A lot of people live in apartment buildings, but there are houses. No one really takes illnesses or anything like that seriously, which is kind of a problem. So like, if you get sick or whatever, they're like, "We don't really care." It's like a double-edged sword, I think, because it's like the pros to that is like, oh, they're not gonna see you any differently, and they're not gonna think that like you're now not really consider being my friend or not worth being my friend if you weren't like that before. The con to that is that it just seems insensitive what they're saying, and sometimes they get insensitive about that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like the pros and cons. It's like, yeah, I don't really care, but at the same time, I don't care. I'm not sure what would be better if people like cared about that kind of stuff, but then at least they are aware of like your problems and stuff, or they completely just ignore everything and they're like, "Yeah, I don't give a shit about your problems, dude. It's your problems. Like, get it together." Well, yeah, that's what it's like to live in Korea, and is it a nice place to live or anything like that? Some people never want to leave there. Some people are fine with it. Would I personally want to live in Korea? Yeah. How is the crime rate in Korea versus America? What are the crimes like? Typically it's like there is a planned gang attack kind of stuff, but not really. Like, would they know what guy is doing what? No, in America it's obvious. In Korea you wouldn't be able to tell unless that guy did something. And you're like, "Oh my god, he did that. Or she did that. Oh my god." But prior to that point, no, you won't be able to tell. Like, you don't know. You know, you don't really know. Like, you can't really tell just by judging them from their appearance. Here, it's so obvious. So even like they won't be able to arrest you unless like you actually did something and they have evidence of it, and then they can get you convicted for a crime. But even if you do those things, there's no evidence. There is no evidence for the judge to actually suffice, like for them to suffice the crime or whatever. They're not gonna be able to arrest you. Even if everyone knows you did it, they're like, "We don't actually have the evidence for it. Damn it." How about in Korea? It's kind of impossible to not leave evidence of those things, and if you don't leave any evidence, that means that you are living in a very, very sketchy area. If you do something illegal and nobody ever said anything and you're still not being convicted and they can't convict you because there's no evidence for it, it's a bad area. Yeah. Are the generational gap noticeable? Kind of. Do people like living in Korea? Are you gonna meet any friends? Blah blah blah. I don't know, honestly, people like hate Korea so much, but it's because they couldn't make it there, okay? Put some pepper in it, it's spicy now. Look, I think the point is that, it's a really great place to live. It's relatively safe. In America, it's not that safe unless you're in a good neighborhood, and even then, like, they can't really prevent a lot of the crimes from happening, and most of the times the cops are involved in those crimes. Whereas in Korea, they're not involved. They don't know anything about the crime that's happening. But again, they're not really gonna go out of your way for you, and they're not really doing anything to prevent those things from happening. So that's kind of like, no cop in Korea. They don't have any like, those bulletproof vests and stuff that cops wear here with the police on it. They don't actually do that in Korea. They just wear a uniform, that's it. Sometimes they carry around a baton, most likely they don't. All they really have is their notebook and their badge number and probably like a walkie-talkie or something. That's it. No copping, like they do carry batons, but they don't have guns on them. They don't have any knives on them. They don't really need it. That's why, I mean, I don't know if that says anything because cops here carry tasers and sprays and guns and stuff like that. They don't do that here. They don't do that there. They do that here. Which means that most often than not, like, the cop knows more about you than you do about them. So it's kind of like, they won't tell you, you won't be able to tell, but yeah, that's what's like. Why aren't they afraid of people trying to stab them or anything? They're not really concerned about that kind of stuff because people aren't like that. That's why, even if things get really bad, even if they think that they're gonna die or anything like that, if they were concerned about that kind of stuff, like, most of the time they'll send in an officer who knows how to do self-defense and stuff, and it wouldn't really be a problem. But yeah, that's kind of, here they get scared really easily. The cops are scared all the time. And they think that if they go to a location where, like, there's been an incident, they're gonna get shot, or like someone's gonna follow them, or like they're gonna get their stuff stolen or something like that. Those things kind of happen in Korea, but maybe not to that extent. But again, at the same time, like, they're not really scared of anyone. That kind of stuff. Like, it's because I don't know. Basically, there's not much to be scared of. Whereas in here, like, apparently, because some of the cops come from very, like, financially stable backgrounds, so they don't really have to worry about that kind of stuff. And then they start working their job, and they're like, oh my god, it gets so bad. And I guess, like, they're not very smart either, but, like, they get scared so easily. Everything freaks them out. They're like, and, like, it's the thing is, like, the cops aren't trying to, like, overpower you or anything, like, asserting their dominance over you in Korea, whereas in here they are. In America, they like what, because they're scared. They're scared of you. They're scared of incidents. They're scared of bad guys, and they don't understand when the crime happens, who's a victim and who's not. Because of their fight or flight response is being triggered, they're so upset and scared. So they're like, oh my god, everyone's a bad guy in that incident. If we go there, someone's gonna be the bad guy. Everyone's a bad guy until proven innocent. It's supposed to be the other way around, innocent until proven guilty. But they're not very smart, like I said, they're retarded. What is it like to, like, be interrogated and be treated as a criminal? It's terrible. Yeah. Are people not like most often? They're not. They're not very like. They're not there to hurt you, whereas the cops here are here to hurt you. I think that's the difference, like with the white European officers versus the East Asian ones. Like cops in Korea aren't there. They're not trying to hurt you. They might not take you seriously, and they might be like kind of verbally aggressive, but they're not really. They're not there to hurt you. Whereas the police in America, they are there to hurt you. They want to hurt other people because they're very scared. Those are the types of people they hire. Apparently in Canada, the only people who are still like that are retarded people. Everybody already kind of got it together and just like moved on, whereas they're still like that because they're retarded. But yeah, that's what I was like. Oh, also, every person considered still their citizen in Korea to be of like part of the community. So you're never like ostracized or left out, and the government is still gonna look after what that person is doing. Look, I got 2 big pimples over here. I was puking earlier, like I almost puked, but I didn't eat anything, so I couldn't even puke anything out. But I was like, I was retching earlier. But yeah. A lot of buildings in Korea still look like this, by the way. Yeah. But maybe a little more updated. But in Cambodia it looks like this, except like cleaner. That's it. And they're like outside. So this is the basement area. They have like this kind of stuff, like, but it's like on the main floor, and there's so much humidity everywhere. It's like, it feels like you're like, this guy his analogy was like, it feels like you're having a hairdryer in your face all the time. To me, it feels like I'm having, like, there's a vent in my face. You know, like when you're running the dryer and at the back, like there's a air that goes out and it's warm, that kind of stuff. It feels like that's on my face all the time. It's like what it's like to be in that area. It's very, very hot. And sometimes it gets really humid. And it's like you walk out of the shower and it's still like you just start sweating the minute you leave the shower. But it's like that during the monsoon season in Korea too. So I approve.